Hi, everybody. Welcome to our spiritual sojourn. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hey, Tom.
Hello, Laurie. It's so good
Hi.
to see you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well today. How about you?
I think I'm doing okay. It's been kind of a strange day, strange energy. Um, and Spirit has something they definitely want to talk about
Okay.
today.
Uh,
Yeah. And they're like right here, kind of chomping at the bit. So let me just leap into it and then we can regroup and see what we come up with.
well, this is how sometimes it goes. They have a message and we just sit back and listen. So, okay.
All right, here we go. Greetings to all of you, dear ones. Today we would like to discuss self-love. We can hear the groans, the eye rolls, know that we know that this is an uncomfortable topic for many of you. However, it is the most important. For by tuning in, practicing self-love, you are finding that place of connection to divine love. As you center your consciousness into your heart space, into that soul being that you are, that true self, you connect fully with the with source, with the divine, all that is. And all that is love. And when you fully pull this into this physical vessel, you begin to feel that love that fills you. And as you claim that for yourself and you recognize it as self-love, loving yourself as a human being, as a soul, as a divine being, that fills you more and more with light. And when you are filled with light, feeling your own essence, your own connection to source, then you are able to fully embrace others, love them as well, without restriction, without limitation, without judgment, and send that out into the world. And that is what your world desperately needs at this time. So we encourage all of you to begin to struggle with this. Uh, Ask that your mind and ego step aside and allow for the possibility of this. For as they also begin to experience this divine love coming through, this self acceptance, this full understanding and knowledge of who you truly are, they will have less resistance. It will be a welcome relief to know that you are love and that you are able to share this with others. Well,
Wow.
I know, right?
Well, so the first thoughts that come to my mind, I want to ask them about this wave that's hitting our country, our society, our culture about narcissistic people. And it seems that that's an extreme. Well, not really. I think people that have studied it know that it's actually not self-love. They many of them hate themselves. But in order to overcome them, self-love is the magic ingredient. What would your guides have to say about that and how to do that?
Each individual human and soul will need to find their way. It does not matter who you are, whatever your outward appearance is, the outward behavior, you are still a divine being at your core. You are still this eternal source that lives in this body. And at that core level, you are pure love. As a human, you can override this. You can ignore it, pretend it is not true, and live your life. And we are asking that each individual, to their best ability, begin to focus on self love. Love themselves entirely. That means the physical vessel, all that you are, all those parts that you dislike, all the nitpicking that you do about your appearance, your abilities, being better than or worse than. Begin to let that slide away by Moving into self-love, you begin to release all of those judgments
Mm,
that you have for yourself. And then you stand in your divinity, loving all of yourself. And from that place of self-love, self-compassion, you are able then to make changes in a positive way that move your life forward and make your life easier as a human being. Many of you struggle with change, and we would say this is due to the fact that you do not employ self-love, which is divine love, which is your true nature.
mm.
If you can drop the judgment, then change is much easier.
That makes sense. You would have a certain confidence that no matter what happens, you will be able to adjust and get through it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
There's still
exactly.
this.
And when they were talking, what occurs to me, it's like all of that self-judgment that we all hold, that I certainly hold about myself, and we can pick out all the things about ourselves that we don't like. Somebody says, "Oh, you look great today. Your hair looks really cute." Oh no, and then you tell them all the things that are wrong with it or
Mm,
with how you're looking today. That's not self-love. Self-love would be accepting that and feeling the intention of that and the love from that and saying thank you and then moving on with the conversation.
mhm.
Sometimes there are those who can do that.
And
Sometimes I can even do it, but not very often.
when that happens, I think the best thing to say is just thank you. And you don't even have to return a compliment, just say thank you.
Uh,
And I know there are some exercises that people do with mirrors and standing in front of the mirror and doing affirmations. I know that exists. I'm certainly nobody's expert in that, but I know that's one of the components is sometimes you just have to go through the rudiments of getting yourself back on center. And I think self-love is the single biggest component to beat someone, or not to beat, but to overcome the effects of someone that is being narcissistic in your space. So lots of us have narcissistic bosses or a friend here or there or somebody, and they can get inside your head and they can ruin your day or ruin your week for that matter. But knowing in yourself who you are is a big step toward just letting that go and not even putting any stock in it. Now that's a big black box that we don't understand exactly. I can't say I know exactly how to do that, but that's the component.
It's for me, it's that staying centered in that true soul self and having that groundedness because when I'm connected to my soul, then I'm also very grounded and nothing can push me off center.
Mhm.
Whatever else is going on around me doesn't have that effect on me. But if I'm not there, if I'm not in that aligned place with soul self, then mind and ego, yes, immediately get caught up in the stories, the drama, all the things that are happening around me and take them on and spin my own. And then it's hard to leave that and recenter then into that place of self-love.
Mm,
Part of it is holding that consciousness that I don't have to spin stories about whatever is going on around me, whether it's in my perception, my mind would say, well, they're doing this to me. I don't have to choose to hold on to that or perceive it in that way
mm,
because they're not really. It's how I'm interpreting it and choosing to own it. And if I don't, then it doesn't affect me at all.
mm,
And I think from my meditations, that's what spirit is trying to help me to see and to understand so that I can spend more time daily in that place of connection with my soul self and source and less time caught up in my mind and ego and all the stories that I spin
mm,
all the time. And for me, it's all about meditation. As as our friend Kendara always says, meditate more. And that's what spirit says. It's always about sitting in that place of quietness for me, of peacefulness, and really connecting to my soul. And that's where I can hear it and feel that love that they're talking about really begin to expand into me and fill me, and then outward. Day to day, if I'm not holding that consciousness, I lose track of it,
Mhm.
and I'm not filled with it in that same way. But
Mm.
through meditation, what I find is I can hold it for a little longer periods of time.
So this is great because the question that came to my mind was in regard to a spiritual solution. We've got some earthly things we can do, and as I said, I'm nobody's expert in that, but some of these spiritual things, maybe your guides can give us some advice. And I know it's through meditation. Can they give any more detail about how you could use meditation in a way to achieve self-love?
Sure. We would suggest that meditation can be however it works best for you. Sitting quietly in your special room, special place that you have, that is your designated spot for meditation. Being out in nature, being outside, anchoring yourself to the earth itself, walking among the trees, listening to the natural wonders around you, being near water, sitting quietly, listening. Any of that can be meditation. Anything that quiets your mind, takes you out of your normal routine of thinking, spinning stories, and being still, connecting with your heart, connecting with that divine love that is already in you. That will help you to begin to hold that consciousness more and more. Listening to music that is uplifting, or music that raises your vibration. Art, anything that takes you out of the mind and ego, connects you with that true self, that opens then to that feeling of love. Practicing non-judgment toward yourself, loving everything about you. That brings you closer and closer to that divine essence that you are. Remember, you are all representations of Source, of the divine being. You are all created in this image, which means you hold that divine spark, that love that is all there is. And each of you are an expression of that. And now it is time that you also allow yourself to feel that and be that.
Mm. You know, that I understand the message, and sometimes, as I said earlier, there's a black box there. You don't necessarily know how to get from A to B. And it's not as
It's,
clear of an understanding for us here on the earth plane. Is there a
it's
specific type of meditations? So let's say I, Tom, go into meditation. That's not guaranteeing me I'm going to have a greater appreciation for my own self. That just means I'm going to get connected. Is there something beyond that that you should do while you're in meditation?
Here's what I get from them, and this is how they guide me in my meditation. For me, it's sitting quietly, going to that, taking my consciousness and moving it into my heart space and holding it there and allowing myself to quiet my mind and just be present for a moment. And then allow the sense of love to begin to build and to expand outward for me. And as that happens, all of those thoughts that I have about myself, everything I dislike about myself, all of my shortcomings, as they begin to surface, I let them go. I put them into the light that is beginning to build inside me, and I just put them all in there. And as I keep doing that, they become less and less troublesome. They become less loud, I guess is the way I experience it. And pretty soon what I find is I'm just one with this incredible sense of light and love. And it's a wonderful place to be. It feels so good. And in that moment, and many times it's a moment, I feel this incredible sense of love for myself completely and totally. Like
Mm,
I truly love who I am in that moment. Then as I'm returning from that experience, it's for me, it's practicing holding on to that for longer periods of time. Even after I come out of the meditation, holding on to that consciousness, reminding myself to come back to that place of total acceptance and love, and holding that for as long as possible. Sometimes that's like 5 seconds, and
mm,
sometimes it's a little longer.
mm,
And I trust that as I do it each day, that it becomes longer and longer. It's a process. This isn't going to be one and done kind of thing. It's a process because I've spent many years uh, disliking myself, not loving myself, saying terrible things to me about myself. And so it takes a while to undo all of that and those beliefs and the words that I use against myself.
mm,
And what my guides are showing me is that if I will really work with this and really practice that self-love, even when I'm walking around every day, if I start to hear me say something negative about myself or say something, to stop and to recognize the thought and then release it, not pay attention to it, not go there, not get caught up in it. So it's really about practicing that Buddhist idea of staying in the now, being present, and not letting yourself listen to all the stories that your mind spins.
oh, okay. So you just reminded me of something that I heard once, which is if you come up with your 10 favorite memories from your life, and every time you are attacked by one of your own negative thoughts, you just drop it and bring one of those in and just re-experience that great memory that you have. It distracts you enough and changes your mental attitude so that that goes away. And pretty soon they're not as frequent as they.
Right,
Plus, you're enjoying something that wonderful to happen. So
right,
I've heard of
right.
that technique.
Yeah. And in this, I know Spirit would direct me to drop my consciousness into my heart space in that moment and connect with my soul more consciously. Because as soon as I connect to that part of me, then it's pure love, and I feel that.
Mhm,
You almost can't help but smile when you're connected to that being, to who I really am.
mhm. How long does it take you to get there?
It depends. Some days I don't. You mean in meditation? Some days I don't. Some days, I don't know. Some days I'm just getting there as my timer goes off and I turn off the timer and just stay with it for a few more minutes. So sometimes it can take 20, 30 minutes. Just depends on how much chatter I have that day in terms of how
Mhm,
long it takes me to settle down and really turn inward. Other days it feels like I sit down and I'm immediately in that space and can hold it for a bit.
mm.
I
Okay.
think we're all at different levels. For me, it's sitting in meditation and feeling that self-love is one thing, and that's great, but that's not where I live. Where I live is here in my
Mhm,
mind and ego, walking around and doing stuff all day. So now my task is how do I hold on to this sense of self-love every moment, or at least come back to it as often as I possibly can,
mhm.
and stop thinking and saying terrible things about myself.
It works as a recharge or a reset, and I can't say I'm good at it. I don't know that I have the ability to focus for that same 30 minutes that you're describing. And maybe other people feel that way, but I'm going to attempt it and see if I can get to that spot. Um, for many of us, it's just very difficult to slow down. It reminds me of some advice I read somewhere, and I'm going to paraphrase it. It says, you should meditate 15 minutes every day unless you're too busy. And if you're too busy, you should meditate for 30 minutes. So right?
I like that. Yes.
So yeah, I'm sure several people have heard that before. It's going to be difficult for many of us to focus for that long, but I personally am going to give it a try and see if I can get to where you have been.
Well, and I think that it doesn't matter so much about time. It's about making the effort. It's about the consciousness of it.
Mhm.
So before you go to sleep at night, bring your consciousness into your heart space and feel that soul, that true self, connect with that divine love that is in there. And just let yourself feel that. Let that fill you as you're falling asleep at night.
Mm.
Start there. It's however you can connect with soul and feel that love. And then beyond that, day to day, it's about catching those negative things that we say about ourselves and think about ourselves, catching those and saying, ah, no, and then replacing it with a more positive thought
Mhm.
about yourself.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen quickly. That's a skill and that's a practice.
It is a practice, absolutely. And this isn't about being perfect. It's about loving yourself even when you're imperfect, because then you are still perfect imperfectly, and that's okay. And you can live that way. It's recognizing it and owning it and being less mean to yourself. For me, is what my guides are leading me toward.
Hmm. That makes
Because
sense. And
once we're less mean to ourselves, we're less mean to others.
yes, yes, that makes
Yeah.
total sense. Well, that's a lot to think about and a great message for today. Do they have anything else they would like to add to that before we close out?
If you could all see yourselves as we see you, this would not even be an issue. You would know the light that you are, the love that shines through you, and you would all feel this, not only of yourself and for yourself, it would expand to all around you with no exception. Keep holding this love.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, that's a lot
Yeah,
to think about and a good goal for all of us.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Tom. This was great.
I enjoyed this session and learned some things, and that's important. So
Yes.
I know I'm gonna smash that like button when I get a chance to look at this on YouTube because I enjoyed it, and I hope you'll do the same. If you have not yet subscribed to us, consider doing that. And please feel free to ask us questions and maybe share some of your own experiences with how you've achieved better existence in your own self-love. And also in the comments, if you'd like to drop an idea for a future episode, we would love that. So with that, I'll say thank you, Laurie, and thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Our Spiritual Sojourn.
See you next time.